Welcome to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. In each episode, we're going to bring you insightful interviews and discussions with top restoration industry leaders. We're also going to delve into their business, the strategies that made them successful, and most importantly, the valuable lessons they learned along the way. I'm your host, Clinton James. I'm also the Chief Marketing Officer at Water Restoration Marketing. We're a digital marketing agency dedicated to helping restoration companies nationwide secure more high-value water jobs. Now, this show, it aims to provide you with the knowledge and tools you need to excel in the restoration industry. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. All right, guys. So as we get started, a couple things. First of all, I'm really glad that you guys have decided to join us here today. This is something that I have really spent a lot of time invested in and in kind of learning this. When I originally started my digital marketing journey, this was back in 1999, and answer engines and generative engines were not a thing, but SEO was still a thing. So this is something that I hope you all get a lot of value out of. First, before we get started, a little housekeeping. Definitely want you guys' attention. I understand that you guys are owners and operators of restoration companies, and I am never going to tell anybody to not pay attention to their business, especially since some of you are owner-operators. Probably get calls that could mean tens, $50,000, $100,000 restoration jobs there. But for those of you that have the bandwidth, I will ask you, hey man, put that phone to the side. Turn off Facebook or Instagram for just a few minutes here. Eliminate any of the distractions that you have, because I want you guys to be active listeners as we have a conversation about the things that you should be doing to really position your business to get found in a new AI environment there. Trust me, if you guys are a water restoration company, what we're going to talk about over the next half hour or so, it can really be a game changer for you guys in terms of getting found, which leads to more leads, more on-site visits, and more jobs there. So in terms of what we're going to cover today, first, we're going to talk a little bit about the latest Google algorithm updates and what that means to you as a restoration company. Then we're going to talk a little bit about AI, answer engines, AEO, GEO, and really how that's disrupting local search for businesses like restoration companies. Then we're going to talk a little bit about past SEO tactics, things that we did in the past to improve our ranking and visibility on Google that aren't necessarily helping and in some case hurting our online presence right now. And then we're going to talk about the most important thing, right? How do we rank higher as restoration businesses? How do we capitalize on new SEO and GEO strategies to improve our visibility as a restoration company? Now, I'm looking in the chat, and I know a lot of you folks know me, but there are some names that I don't recognize. So I want to give you guys an introduction to who I am and why you should listen to me today. First of all, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer and one of the partners at an agency called Water Restoration Marketing. I've got over 15 years of experience working in emergency services marketing, but for the last 8 years, me and my team have worked exclusively with restoration companies. So I am not a generalist. Friends, family members, people that I meet that own restaurants and maybe they're dentists or landscapers ask me about digital marketing. That is not my bag. I strictly work with restoration companies. Got 8 years doing that, so I'd like to think that we've learned a thing or two about helping restoration businesses. I'm also the host of a podcast called the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. That's given me a great opportunity to interview and have conversations with leaders in the restoration space. It's also been great for me because I've learned a lot, and I've got some interviews that are coming in the next few weeks and couple months with people that are using AI in their restoration business to improve profitability, streamline certain workflows there. So I'm really excited to bring some of that content to you through our podcast. And then the final, and what I think the most important thing, over the last 8 years, I've had an opportunity to help hundreds of restoration companies across the country to grow their business using some of the digital marketing strategies that we employ at my agency there. Okay. For those of you who may not be able to make this entire session, I do want you to know I'd love to speak with any of you about your business, find out a little bit more about what you guys are looking for in the digital marketing space, and see if we might be a good fit to help you grow your business. At any time, you guys can go to our website, waterrestorationmarketing.net/schedule. It will pull up a calendar and you can schedule time with myself. Now, I will warn you, limited availability next week because I will be in Florida for the Restoration Industry Association event in West Palm Beach. It's my first time attending a RIA event. If any of you that are on this webinar today are going to be attending that event, I'd love to meet you, get some FaceTime, find out a little bit more about your business. So please, if you do see me out there, don't hesitate. Stop, say hello. I'll probably have a microphone because I'm going to be doing some shooting some content while I'm out there for our podcast there. Now, I get this question asked a lot, and I want to be really, really transparent about this. A lot of folks in an age of AI are asking me if traditional SEO or search engine optimization still matters. Well, I always go to the source, and when I tell you the source, I'm talking about where leads come from. And I'm going to tell you, yes, 100% search engine optimization still matters. It's still a big, important part of how you get found on the internet there. According to Mozcast, and for those of you who are not familiar with Mozcast, you can look at it as kind of like a weather report for what's going on with Google's search algorithm there. Mozcast reports that over 65% of the clicks that happen through Google's search engine are going to organic search. When I say organic search, I'm talking about the map pack, right? Your Google business profiles. I'm talking about the organic listings below that. And paid ads account for probably less than 20%. Now, does that mean I don't think you should run paid ads? That's absolutely not the case. As a matter of fact, me and my agency manage over 100 PPC campaigns specifically for water restoration companies. So that can still be an effective way for you to generate opportunities. But search engine optimization is as important as ever because more and more people are leaning on things like the Google business profiles and the map pack to find a restoration business. With that being said, though, search engine optimization has changed a lot over the years. And two of the newer things that we're seeing that are impacting that change are AI. And what we refer to as answer engine optimization, and then GEO, which is a reference to generative engine optimization. Um, Very similar. You're going to hear AEO and GEO thrown out by a lot of people in the digital marketing space. I'll be completely transparent. I've got people on my team that are a lot smarter than I am that have delved into this topic, and from what I can tell, they're very similar, right? Some of the tools that you use on a day-to-day basis, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude or Gronk, or even the voice uh, Google Voice Assistant or Siri. They're both of these things, right? They're both AE, uh, answer engines, and they're GE, generative engines there. So let's talk a little bit about what AEO and GEO is. So as I mentioned, AEO, it's really about creating content that directly answers whatever that user is asking, right? So how long does it take water damage to dry? Somebody might ask this question on Google. They might ask it to Siri. They might even ask it in Chat GPT. So when you're looking to optimize for answer engines, you want to be providing that content. This is going to help you rank in things like Google's Voice Assistant, Alexa, Siri, Perplexity, and of course, Chat GPT, which is probably the most commonly used AI tool out in the market right now. Let's talk about GEO, right? So this is a more commonly used term, generative engine optimization. So we've got search tools like your Chat GPT, Google Gemini, Bing Chat, Perplexity, things like this. And what we want to do is create content that will help restoration companies get found using these different platforms there. So that's super important. Again, these terms are interchangeable. AEO, GEO, really it's all search engine optimization because all of these tools are searching the resources that are available to them through the internet. And that's ultimately going to be what makes the decision on, what content or what answers they provide to those people. Let's talk about the pillars of search engine optimization. And I really have narrowed it down to four pillars, especially for restoration companies. The first is technical search engine optimization. That's simple things like making sure that your restoration website loads quickly, it's optimized for mobile users, all the pages are properly indexed with the search engines, you don't have broken links. That's the kind of stuff that technical SEO talks about. Then you've got your on-page SEO, right? So when I talk to a restoration company, they show me their website. Some of the key things that I'm looking for in terms of on-page SEO is do they have service pages dedicated to not just all of the services that they offer, but specific services, right? Do you have a page dedicated to emergency water damage? Do you have a page dedicated to mold remediation? Do you have pages dedicated to fire and smoke cleanup? Or if you do air duct cleaning, biohazard, trauma, asbestos abatement? You shouldn't have one primary service page. You should have a service page for each one of these services. Okay. Off-page SEO is something that a lot of people don't invest enough time in. You definitely want to have backlinks, and backlinks get kind of a dirty reputation because 5, 10 years ago, people used to go out to these server farms and buy all these backlinks to convince Google that their websites had really high authority, domain authority, like that they were very important when it came to those specific services that they were promoting. It doesn't work anymore, right? So you need to find quality backlinks from relevant sites that Google respects. So industry associations, local municipalities, websites like Google, right? Those are the places that you want to have linking back to your website because that ultimately will boost the authority of your website, which helps you get found organically there. Online PR mentions. So let's say I just met with a potential client the other day, and he was featured on the local news for some work that they had done in a home for mold remediation. That's the kind of content. If they're going to post that about that on the news website, that news article needs to link back to a blog post or some content that he has dedicated to that on their website. That's great. Consistent NAP. So that's name, address, phone number when you're building out citations. Citations are still important, guys. You want to have the same name, address, and phone number across all of these various directories that are out there on the internet. Does that mean you can't use tracking numbers? Absolutely not. We use tracking numbers on our Google business profiles for our clients, on their websites, different tracking numbers for paid ads. But you still want to have the same primary name, address, and phone number across a lot of these different citations there and directories there. Reviews are still important, right? So the most valuable review that you guys can get from your homeowners and business owners that you're providing restoration services to is a Google review, right? This is still important in search engine optimization, especially when we look at something like the Google business profiles and where you rank in the maps. You will see companies that outrank companies that have more reviews. You will see companies that outrank companies that have a higher average star rating. So they're not isolated ranking factors, but they definitely play a role. So if you don't have a system in place that ensures that every time one of your technicians or project managers wraps up a restoration job, you're not proactively going out and soliciting a 5-star review to your Google business profile, you're completely missing the mark. It's still a key ranking factor, and it's one of the things that these answer engines are looking at, your online reputation, and it's no secret, Google is king when it comes to that stuff. So you wanna make sure that you're not only getting reviews and getting 5-star reviews, but you have a system in place to make sure that you're getting them consistently. Huge ranking factor for Google, you do not wanna overlook that. Then you've got, user UX and experience for the homeowner. You wanna make sure that everything that you do, every asset that you have on the internet is easy to navigate for the end user. You've got clear calls to action, whether it's a lead form submission, click to dial phone number. I see a lot of folks taking the initiative to add these chat bots and online booking. And since I primarily play in the sandbox of emergency services, it's good to have those features on there. But I tell clients and I tell prospects and folks that we're potentially working with, at the end of the day, if somebody has, let's say, emergency water damage, I'm not directing them to a lead form. I'm not asking them to correspond with the business via a chat bot. If they come home and they're standing in 2 inches of water, they're not looking to fill out a form and wait for somebody to call them back, right? We want to drive them to the call to action to click to dial, right? Because I'm not in the business of generating lead form submissions when it comes to emergency water damage. What I want to do is I want to get you a direct call from a homeowner, a business owner that's in the middle of a water damage emergency, and that call is going to go to you and you only. All right, so let's talk a little bit about ChatGPT because it's the most commonly used answer engine on the web right now. I don't know in the chat if anybody wants to mention if they currently use ChatGPT not just in their business but also just as a primary search tool. So ChatGPT Now, while these platforms will never give us a list of exactly what their criteria and ranking factors are, we can discern from like trial and error there, right? So when it comes to ChatGPT, their criteria for recommending restoration businesses might have something to do with their average star rating or their review rating, right? Do they have a decent number of reviews? Is it 4.5 stars or better? Are they consistently getting new reviews? It's very simple, similar to the ranking algorithm that they use for the map pack there. How many years have you been experience? How many years of experience do you have? Right. So experience matters when it comes to Google. You want assets that are aged. You want to reference years of service, and then obviously they can go back and they can look at the date stamps on a lot of the reviews that you have. So that will build some additional credibility there. Another one is, do you offer 24/7 emergency services? You need to promote that on your website, on your Google business profile, on any assets that you got built in on social media. And then obviously, when you're building out citations and all these different directories, you want to reference that as well. Finally, a local office presence. Okay. There are tons of like national lead generation tools that do not have a local presence. You will not see those companies ranked in the maps, right? Because they don't have a local office and they don't have a local presence there. So that is why having a local office in that service area or having multiple offices in a larger service area is going to improve your rankings, not just in organic with Google, but also with ChatGPT. They're looking to see where that physical address is in relation to the answer that they are providing that homeowner that's doing a search using their platform there. All right. Sorry, guys. Jump back a little bit there. So websites, clean, transparent. If you've got your licenses, your IICRC certifications, your WRT certifications, if you're members of associations like RIA, you need to promote that stuff on all of the digital assets that you have out there. Whether it's your website, whether it's your social content, whether it's the citations that you're building, you want to reference those licenses and certifications there. And then obviously make sure that you're insured. You have to go through a process to even be on local service ads, your Google guarantee. Also, educational content, right? So you guys all have basically a video studio in your back pocket in terms of smartphones nowadays. You really need to use that to create educational content for the web. Google likes educational content. These answer engines like educational content. We'll talk a little bit about that a little later there. And then before and after photos and videos. I know if you guys are doing restoration work and you are working with homeowners and business owners through the insurance claim process, you have to take before, after, and project pictures. Why not use those pictures and that video to create content to boost your authority, which will lead to you being found more by these answer engines and more traditional search engines like Google or Bing? So utilize those things that you're already doing right now when you're working with folks through the insurance claim process. Work with your digital marketing partner to use those videos, those pictures to create educational content and content that builds trust with potential new prospects that you'll be working with later on down the road. All right, so let's talk a little bit about SEO, right? Restoration Edition. So, first and foremost, smart keyword targeting. Now, what do I mean when I say smart targeting? So, when you are creating content for your website, you want to use things that customers actually are searching for, like emergency water damage near me or 24/7 flood cleanup. And you've got to use them naturally. And you want to use them in places like your headlines, body text, and meta descriptions. Okay. Use those keywords because that is the way people talk. That's the way people talk to like Siri and Google AI Assistant, and the way they talk to ChatGPT on their voice feature there. So you want to make sure that you're using phrasing that is actually being used by your target client or customer to find you on the internet there. Second thing you want to look at is service page structure that converts. So when you have a website, you want to have dedicated pages for each one of your services. Again, water damage, mold removal, file restoration, asbestos abatement, biohazard, trauma, air duct cleaning, carpet cleaning. Each one of those should have a separate page that's being indexed by Google on your website. The same thing goes for locations, right? You want to have, if you're in a service area, and you're in one city, that's not the only city that you service. So you need to create unique pages for all the major cities and towns in your service area because Google is ultimately going to scrape and index that information. And you want to show Google exactly not only what you offer in terms of services, but where you offer those services there. All right, strong internal and external links. So we already talked about external links, links that you're getting from local municipalities, local media outlets, anything that Google thinks has a high authority. You also want to do some internal linking, right? So when you're creating content on your own pages, you want to log from create a link from a blog post that you has that might take you back to the specific service page that you're referring to, right? And again, whatever digital marketing agency you're working with, make sure that they have some kind of backlink strategy to get you listed with local directories, industry sites, partnerships that they've had established. All of those links ultimately are going to boost your domain authority, which improves you getting found. The higher you rank, the more you're found, the more leads, more on-site visits, and more jobs that you're going to get as a restoration business. Mobile optimization and page speed. All right. So I see a lot of people that are now building their websites through GoDaddy or Wix. And that's great. If you wanted to take the time and invest and do that, but you want to make sure that in your desire to share all of this video content of job sites that you've worked on, of your service vehicles, your team members, make sure all of that is optimized to improve page speed, right? You want to have a lightning fast website. You want to make sure it's mobile friendly. You want to make sure it's easy to use because Google prioritizes performance, especially for local service businesses. So if you don't have a good user experience, you don't have a page that loads quickly, that is ultimately going to not only impact whether your website gets found, but whether you're found in the map section. Because that website, because it's linked to your Google business profile, it's going to impact how it raises or falls in the rankings there. It's also going to impact whether you're found on these various AE or GE answer engine or we'll just refer to it as answer engines there, but things like AI chat features there. So all right, we want to make sure that all the content that we create for the website is human focused content, right? So I am not saying not to use AI tools to help you craft blogs, FAQs, but it needs to have a human touch. And you can tell the difference when you're reading AI because trust me, we do a lot of content for our teams and we'll use AI to get us a percentage of the way there, but we employ a number of copywriters that have experience writing this kind of copy specifically for restoration and home service businesses there. So it needs to have a human touch. You need to write blog posts. You need to create FAQs and service content that actually helps people, right? You want to be able to answer questions about identifying mold in someone's home there. Okay. This isn't just for ranking, it's to build trust. Right. Google now favors pages that show what they call EAT, expertise, experience, authority, and trust. So that needs to go into play when you're crafting your content for your website and for other digital marketing assets that you have. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the answer engine optimization formula, right? What do you need to do differently to make sure that your restoration company is found when someone is using an AI assistant, or AI voice assistant, or a platform like ChatGPT to find information about restoration services in their area there? First thing is local authority signals, right? So what does that mean? Want to make sure that your business shows up consistently across your Google business profile, Yelp, Angie's, Thumbtack. I'm not saying to pay for leads on those platforms, but you should definitely have a page on there. Any directories, you want to make sure that they have the same name, address, and phone number. Uses this to basically verify that you are a real business. So you want to make sure that you stay on top of that. Now, let's talk a little bit about content. You want to create answer style website content. So FAQs are something that I don't see on a lot of people's restoration websites. You want to create FAQs because this is the kind of indexed information that answers the question that people are asking Siri or Google's chat assistant there or chat GPT, right? So all of your FAQs should be in a style of content that answers real questions that homeowners are asking, right? What do I do about a busted water pipe? Or how do I identify mold in my basement? This is gonna help you guys show up in various voice searches, and you can use services like, People Also Ask, to identify kind of what questions or what similar questions are being asked about your services there. Again, I'm gonna harp on reviews as being a trust signal, right? So again, make sure that you guys have a system in place to get five-star reviews on Google. Doesn't hurt to have reviews on social media platforms and industry platforms, even Yelp and Angie's. It does not hurt to have reviews. But remember, those Google reviews definitely worth their weight in gold. So that's where you should be focusing your efforts there. Google wants to read these trust signals and identify that you are a active and trustworthy business. Mobile first, speed and usability. So, what does that mean? Your site should load fast on phones. Click to call buttons, local service areas are clearly listed. If users show up at your website and bounce immediately, that's ultimately going to impact your rankings with Google, right? You want them on page for an extended period of time there. Yeah. Location-rich content and media. So this goes back to photos, videos, case studies, before and after, real jobs with cities and zip codes mentioned in the content, right? To prove to Google and to future customers that you're doing these kind of restoration services specifically in their area there. All right, let's talk a little bit about website optimization, right? Specifically, things that you can do with your website to improve the chances that you're getting picked up by these answer engines. First thing, clear services and local areas on the homepage, right? So your navigation bar should not only have a clear drop down that lists out all of the services that you provide, but you should have a second link in that navigation bar that lists out the primary services and gives a description of your service area there. That should be clear and present for anybody that lands on your homepage, whether it's on a desktop computer, a tablet, or a phone there. Call now buttons everywhere, right? Think mobile first. If you're in the restoration business, my guess is that you want emergency service calls, right? Nobody likes going out and bidding on a bunch of mold jobs, right? Again, talk to restoration companies all day. They tell me their ideal call is emergency water damage call. If you want emergency water damage calls, you don't want people that are on your website filling out forms, chatting with chat bots there. You want to make sure you've got clear call now buttons throughout your website and the other social assets that you guys create. Always think about optimizing for mobile first. Again, one service, one page. So each service that you offer should have a unique page on the website with dedicated content that's written specifically for that service. And then at some point, you magnify that by not only having primary service pages, but you start building out service pages specifically for each one of the cities that you are looking to generate business in. All this stuff is being scraped, indexed by Google, so it all matters. This should go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. Use real photos, not stock images. Google can recognize stock images. You should be using real photos, and there's really no excuse for it because you guys are going out and doing this kind of work in the community. It's very easy for you or a technician to snap pictures of equipment, service vehicles, experiences that you guys have had in homes, before and after pictures, and use those images on your website and all of the content and assets that you have on the internet, right? Your Google business profile should have multiple photos from on-site visits and jobs that you guys have done on a monthly basis there. So make sure that you guys are doing that. Um, Also, add an FAQ or any kind of customer help content there. So, right, add that to your additional service pages there, add it to the primary website, and make sure that whoever is crafting the content for that, they are speaking specifically to the questions that is going to be asking for that service, right? How do I identify mold in my home? How do I identify the water or the source for emergency water damage there? So find out what those questions are and make sure that you craft FAQs to answer those questions. This is a lot to go in, guys, and by no means have we covered everything today. I just wanted to give you guys a couple of actionable items that you guys can implement with whoever is doing your online marketing today to try to improve your rankings organically and start to get found by some of these search engines. Um, when it comes to AI, I do not think that homeowners and business owners that come home or come to the office after a day or after a weekend and they're standing in 2 inches of water are immediately going to these AI engines or the answer engines to find emergency service providers. I still think Google is king. So I'm not going to tell anybody to abandon their Google marketing strategies to go after voice and AI assistance there. I'm not saying that. But this is the kind of technology that is going to be front and center in the coming years. And the quicker you start crafting your online strategy to make sure that you're creating content and make sure that you're ranking well with those other tools, then you'll when the shift does happen and people are using these AI tools more and more frequently, then you don't get left behind there, right? It's always better to get ahead of the curve when you're trying to predict what the marketing trends are going to look like there. And the good news is whether it's AEO, GEO, SEO, it is all optimization for the same type of search there. So a lot of the things that you should be doing, whether it's content creation, whether it's citation building, whether it's your website design, or even a paid ad strategy, that is all geared towards getting you found. And it's all a lot of similar exercises there. You just have to craft the content different. You've got to provide real photos. You got to do things like that. So, this went about 3 minutes longer than I thought it would. I hope everybody got some value. If anybody has any specific questions, I've got a few minutes. Please drop them in the chat. I'll be happy to respond to those. And for those of you that are interested, again, I do offer a free SEO and GEO visibility review. You guys can visit the website below, waterrestorationmarketing.net/schedule. That will give you a calendar. You can put some time on my calendar and we can talk a little bit more. And I might be able to point you guys in the right direction in terms of how to improve your rankings and just improve your lead flow through digital marketing there. But again, I want to thank everybody for jumping on here. Look forward to another webinar session next month. So thank you very much and hope everybody has a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. If you like what you heard today, be sure to subscribe, share, and also leave us a 5-star review. We'll be back with more interviews and discussions with restoration industry leaders really soon. In the meantime, if you're a restoration company looking to add more high-value water jobs, you can reach me and my team at waterrestorationmarketing.net. Again, that's waterrestorationmarketing.net. I look forward to hearing from you soon.